All right, fam. So this is what we got going on for your love lives, family. Okay, we're looking at this specifically. We're looking at love only. Page of Pentacles is a really good card to get, only because this talks about work in progress. So if you've been having some issues, maybe things haven't necessarily been going very well for you, it's probably in the work in progress, right? It's a temporary time of focusing on what needs to be done to get everything in the right mojo, if you get what I'm trying to say. So that's already being done. Now, for those of you that aren't necessarily in a relationship right now, this could indicate here that there is maybe this is about an offer. This is about somebody that's extended something of value. Maybe then they don't have enough to give or a lot to give right now, but they're trying to extend something to potentially grow something more, right? Perhaps this is the only thing that they can give at the moment. Let's see why we have the Page of Pentacles, the Tower. So this is a big thing. Either you guys have extended yourself to someone else, or the Tower's here, right? The Tower, you're the one that's going to initiate and to extend some sort of offer. It could be either one. But now I just want to know, like, why do you have the Five of Swords in the heart of the reading? The whole focus, the energy has a lot to do with feeling like, with like getting something, fighting for something, despite what other people have to say, or despite how other people feel about it. Usually the Five of Swords is really ruthless energy, right? And sometimes that ruthless energy is needed, right? Sometimes, people be trying to think they can walk all over folks. No, you can't do that. And this is willing to, throw some hands, say some things to make sure that you go and stay on the path that you're currently at. The Five of Swords can also indicate there's a lot of selfishness. There's a lot of only considering oneself. That could be considering, this could be someone else that you're dealing with that's not necessarily contributing to the relationship. And you have to kind of you feel like you're in a situation maybe where you have to stand up for yourself, look at your own needs, right? Because the other person may not be considering your needs, right? Because the Five of Swords is usually very inconsiderate energy, right? You're not considering what other people want. So, and you're not necessarily open to compromising anyways, right? Sometimes this card can indicate compromise. It could be that you guys have compromised something or are willing to compromise to make something work. It's usually just all about what is worth fighting for. That's the biggest message for this. So whether this is you not compromising or this is you compromising, someone else compromising, someone else not compromising, this whole card, it has to do with either one of that and either one of the ends of the spectrum. But I feel like there's something that someone may not want to compromise on. And the reason why I say that is because of the King of Cups. This is like somebody is in love here. Somebody either is in love, knows what they want to feel. So if this is some energy that's coming in from the past, this person is probably wanting to change their mind about how they want to go about it. I kind of get this feeling this person wants to stay in the certain direction that they're in. Because this is something that they've wanted. This is something that they know they want. The King of Cups doesn't change his mind very often because I feel like with the King of Cups, he's more committal to his dreams instead of them changing, ever so often, like the Knight of Cups. So I feel like if there was a desire here, if there was a dream in the past, somebody was really happy about that dream. Somebody was really happy with this relationship. Somebody was really, feeling the vibes, so to speak, right? Now, there was a lot of emotional stuff coming up with the King of Cups, but I don't know if there was a lot of expression of that emotion. The King of Cups doesn't try to keep his stuff secret, but he doesn't necessarily make it everybody else's business either. And right parallel to that is the King of Pentacles. So I just feel like this moves into manifesting what the King of Cups wanted in the very beginning. What was his desire? Because here, right, you have the Two of Pentacles. There's some sort of decision that needs to be made in regards to like committing to something. And I feel like there is some sort of, kind of stalling energy. Somebody's kind of looking very, like trying to balance the situation out, trying to wait or something. Wait for something to make sense. But I think they're looking at the situation from a very practical standpoint. Interesting. I don't know. I don't really know what the Two of Pentacles could mean. I don't know if this is necessarily a real decision or if this is somebody just not necessarily ready to jump in yet. not ready to commit to something. It could be that someone is trying to weigh the pros and cons to a situation. I don't see this as a third party situation, mainly because there's cards that are missing from this deck that would indicate that. And I know there's 3 court cards in here, or excuse me, there's 3, but 4, honestly, if you think about the page, if you count the page, or 5, page of swords, page of pentacles. I don't see this as a third party. I do see this as somebody stalling, though. Like but it could be stalling. It could be, keeping the balance, waiting for the right decision to kind of come out of the woodworks, even though that's not going to happen, right? Could be distracting. Could be distraction. I feel like this person may be feeling love and they distracting themselves because that would have to do with something that would require a compromise. Let's see. Yeah, the 8 of Swords for the 2 of Pentacles. So it's not necessarily stalling then. It's more of like somebody isn't really sure what to do. But they have options. They just don't really like those 2 options. Which makes sense because because the advice, right, the best path to follow is making the hard decision, right? I think there's something true about the King of Cups already knowing what they want, and then they're keeping the balance to kind of hesitate on making the real decision. But this decision has something to do with the Queen of Cups. This is this person's partner, right? The King of Cups and the Queen of Cups are together. They're a couple. So, and remember, it could be same sex. It doesn't really matter the gender or assigned to each of these cards. But I do feel like this person is maybe trying to figure out what they want to do about the relationship, because I think this is something that they want, but I feel like there's something else that they need to compromise, like the 5 of Swords is saying. And that may be the hard decision, the compromise, the consideration of someone else. I think this person that you're dealing with may be in a situation where they are stubborn, right? I feel like they're trying to adjust to something new, because by the way this is looking, the 8 of Swords is like feeling like you have no options, like you're kind of trapped in a cage, not a guilty one, but a cage, like you're trapped, you can't do anything, your thoughts are limited with the 8 of Swords, right? You can't see anything outside of your mind. But there's 2 options to consider, right? The 2 of Pentacles. What are you willing to commit to? The 2 of Pentacles usually asks, right? Which option is something that you're willing to commit to? But usually with the 2 of Pentacles, you're looking at this from a very practical standpoint. You're not looking at it from an emotional one. So it's going to be harder to make a decision about what makes sense to you, or what path you wanted to commit to, because it's all about practicality at this point. There's a lot of logic being used here instead of going on faith and feeling your way through. So why do we have the Page of Swords coming up in the future? The Page of Swords is coming in the future because of the Magician. Manifesting. But I think it's from getting more information. I think you may get some more information. Page of Swords can also talk about communication too. Talk about blunt communication. Maybe something needs to be discussed between you and another person. But I just really feel like you get more information, and that information helps to create the desired outcome. Okay, that's very interesting. Now, your best path to follow, like I said before, was 2 of Swords. And that means that there's a difficult decision that's fairly difficult to make. Because the situation is saying that this person, right, has this really big decision to make, has this really big, moment in time where they could leave this position. But they're not seeing it for how it truly is. So therefore, they don't know. The moon is I always see the moon as a card of confusion. And it's not in a bad way. It's just that things aren't clear. Things aren't, focused, right? You can't focus on something at night because that is, that's not clear. It's not a clear area to survey things, right? You can't see something clearly in the dark. So this person's blindfolded, showing us that there is something that she's not seeing. Somebody is not seeing the situation as it should be, so that way they can make the best decision for themselves. So that in essence, the Two of Pentacles and Two of Swords are doing the same thing. Except the Two of Swords is a difficult decision to make, because that requires, I guess, it requires full commitment to it. Like the Two of Pentacles is really talking about there too. And I feel like that the Two of Swords also would make or break a situation. Right? I feel like if you have to choose something, there's probably you feel like if you choose something, there may be a fight. Or there's a standoff right now, and whatever you decide, if it doesn't agree with what this is, there's going to be consequences to paying. Either you sacrifice, or you stand for what's, you go in the opposite direction. The opposite direction may be your real truth, which is why the Two of Swords is there. And probably the Page of Swords coming up in the future, maybe that you communicate what you can and cannot do. Like I think right now, it's just like you feel trapped. Maybe you're even stuck in an ultimatum right now. Maybe somebody in the past here has an idea of what they want to do, and you're trying to make it work, but you're not feeling it. Maybe it's just not for you, right? Maybe it's not about a decision really. It's about you trying to make it work, and it's not something that you can engage in because it's not truly coming from you. Because you come up as the Queen of Cups. The Cancer card is the Queen of Cups. Or the card that you lend your energy to, Cancer, is the Queen of Cups. So it could be that you're just kind of like keeping the balance, doing the thing, right? Just kind of going along with everything. And it's not satisfying because you're not getting what you want out of it. Maybe you have a different idea of what you love, or maybe a different idea of how you want the relationship to go, or what balance did you want the relationship to be. Some of you guys may be trying to make the relationship work, and the other person may not be involved in that. But I feel like that's why the future, maybe the Page of Swords, either you get more information as to how to manifest what you want in relationships, by either, looking elsewhere, or maybe like even window shopping, or even reading articles, getting ideas, seeing a therapist. Whatever this Page of Swords is about getting information. It's about using some sort of knowledge or information to influence changes, or to influence creation. Or this could be that you finally just you break the silence and you say whatever it is that you really want to happen. But it comes by committing to the choice that you make. What is truly your truth, and accepting that being your truth. Because I think at the end of the day, right, the Two of Swords, you already know what the choice is. You already know what the decision is. It's really just about accepting that in the end of the day, right? You're just like, there's no changing this. Even if you've tried to change it for the sake of the relationship, you have to be true to yourself. And sometimes that choice, that feeling doesn't move, doesn't change. Most of the time it doesn't. And I feel like the Queen of Cups, she knows what she wants from the beginning of time. She knows what she wants. It doesn't change no matter what. And truth doesn't have to be logical. Truth is, is purely subjective. It's purely subjective. There's no such thing as the universal truth. So there may be something going on here where you may be trying to make something work. You've been trying to compromise, but it ain't real now. Right? It ain't really what you want. That's what I mean. So let's see what the Queen of Cups says in the external energy. Why is the Queen of Cups coming up in the external energy for Cancer? The Seven of Wands, yeah. That's standing your ground, fam. That is standing your ground. That's defensive energy. And I feel like right now you're just trying to, keep the balance, because you know that your situation isn't necessarily desired. I think that you love the person deeply. The lovers, the Queen of Cups, King of Cups, that combination, that's pure love to me. But I kind of get this feeling that the situation between you two, however it's being handled, isn't necessarily how you desire it. You don't necessarily desire a different person, but I feel like you do desire a different way you guys grow in the relationship, like the Page of Pentacles is indicating. And the Tower could be that thing, right? Could be whatever change, I feel like something has been revealed. Usually the Tower always reveals something. It reveals something that has been unstable, something that wasn't working, something that was concealing a problem. And the Page of Pentacles is now like, okay, let's work on that. But it requires, the realisticness of the situation to come through. And I feel like that's what's happening here. Somebody has to be honest about how they really feel about how things are going. And be honest about what they want. Because in order for things to go in the right direction, there has to be maybe a little conflict, right? And there has to be, the willingness to stand by their dreams, right? What they truly want. You have the Four of Cups in your hopes and fears. And that tells me that the situation, I think the fear is that, the balance is kept up so long and so much that you don't care about what you want anymore. You don't care to get it. You don't care to go after it. I think you guys hope that you guys find a way to make your dream come true too, through this relationship, right? Find a good compromise. Because I feel like whoever this person is, they haven't really been considerate. And the King of Cups is very considerate. He's always sensitive to other people's emotions. He and his lovely wife, the Queen of Cups, they're typically empaths. So they feel people. They know how they feel. They're very sensitive. But I feel like there may be insensitivity because there's a lot of emphasis on the one person themselves. But I kind of get this feeling that with the Four of Cups, there may be the fear that there may be a lackluster kind of development. Like the feeling of not really giving a damn now will grow and become so overwhelming that you just don't care. But it feels like the situation has to take a really strong step in a different direction. And I feel like this relationship can handle it because you guys both are very strong in love. But your outcome shows the King of Pentacles. Someone that looks at a situation from a very practical standpoint. But I don't think it's necessarily somebody that just switches on money mode and just kind of sticks to work. I kind of get this feeling that the King of Pentacles feels even more committed because they appreciate or see the value of the relationship. The King of Pentacles, whoever this King of Cups is, turns into the King of Pentacles. Willing to work with you. Why is the King of Pentacles coming up in Cancer's outcome? Wow, because of the Knight of Wands. Now, I do feel like the Knight of Wands has this tendency to kind of do what he wants to do and that's it. Not necessarily consider anyone else's opinions on what to do and why to do it. So I kind of feel like this person stabilizes, takes a more responsible approach because maybe they've been not immature, but they've been having fun, right? They've been doing their thing. They've been enjoying their freedom, but they commit now. Like that's commitment there. The Knight of Wands, he doesn't commit to anything. The only time you'll see him consistently doing something is if it's something he wants to do. And I feel like the King of Pentacles is like, yeah, this is something I value. This is something I want. And this person honestly looks like they step up from being someone that just focuses on what they want to do to focusing on building something to create, building and creating something over time. And understanding that time is going to be needed in order for great things to come through. And that's big. I've been really feeling like this week we really need to look at what the Power of Surrender card is. Not necessarily that I have any sort of necessary reason to. I know that there is an eclipse coming this week. So, and I believe it's the new moon. Okay, so if it's not the full, but surrender, man. I feel led to this. I was debating on another deck to use, another oracle deck, but I was really feeling led to use the Power of Surrender. So, surrender to divine timing. Sometimes divine timing may differ from your ego's timing. If a goal isn't manifesting fast enough according to your ego, be patient and trust the universal flow. And that can be hard, right? Especially if you've been working on something and it's been taking a long time to manifest, right? Sometimes some things just take forever. But it doesn't mean that it will be forever by the time it's done. So, in response to this, right, the Page of Pentacles, slow temporary, long and hard work with this relationship is in play. But the more you focus on what needs to adjust and change and to be worked on, the sooner time will fly. Miracles and blessings. Ooh, everything has its gifts.